If you've been thinking that so much of this talk about desperate asylum seekers on Nauru and Manus Island is just a cover for a racket, well, there's more and more evidence to say you could well be right, at least for some of them. The latest news out today is that 71 of the boat people on Nauru have refused an offer of resettlement in the United States. Now, these people have been found to be refugees, genuine refugees who've met the test for a well-founded fear of persecution in their homeland. And they've been on Nauru for 5 years now, yet they've knocked back America. If Nauru is, as we're constantly told, a hellhole of rampant mental illness and people on the edge of suicide, it's surprising, isn't it then, that 71 of these people don't want to leave for a new life in the US. Let's pause for a moment and let all of that sink in. Here are refugees who supposedly can't go back home. They've been stuck in this alleged nightmare no man's land for 5 years, yet they won't go to America. For people who are supposed to be desperate, they're incredibly picky about which safe new first world country they'll accept. I can say with confidence here that I bet there's millions, literally millions of people around the world languishing in refugee camps, particularly vulnerable women and children without the means to fly all the way down to Indonesia and pay people smugglers for a boat ride to Australia. People who would grab the chance of life in America and not think twice. But not these 71. According to today's Daily Telegraph, these refugees knocked back the United States deal when they were told, wait for it, that they'd have to work and wouldn't receive welfare. Now, when I read today's report in the telly, I said this couldn't possibly be right. So I made contact with Mr Dutton's office and they confirmed to me that 71 individuals have withdrawn from the US immigration process. This makes them not even economic migrants. These people are welfare migrants, forum shopping for the best taxpayer-funded lifestyle, not fleeing their homelands to save their lives. And this is precisely why the Morrison government needs to be very careful about giving in to the bleeding heart lobby and bringing them all to Australia. As we've heard this week, the government is already bringing all the children and their parents, because heaven help anyone who separates children and parents, bringing them all to Australia by Christmas. They tell us this is just for medical reasons and they won't be permanently settled here, but that's not what the activists are hoping for. Once here, their campaign will ramp up and they'll protest even more loudly when it comes time for any of them to leave. Now, if the government concedes even more ground here and gets New Zealand to take the rest, those that are refugees as well as those who have been found not to be refugees but are refusing to go home, well, if New Zealand takes them all without the lifetime ban on boat people coming across the Tasman like all other Kiwis can, then that just means they will all end up here, and they will. I know that, and you know that. Perhaps the 5-year wait on Nauru, followed by a few years in New Zealand, will be sufficient deterrent, perhaps, to the people smugglers and their customers, but I seriously doubt it. What's a few years when their goal is welfare for life, free schooling, the world's best free healthcare, help to get a house, and family reunion visas for any other members of their families still overseas? I'm not hard-hearted, but I understand resolve. And I know from first-hand real experience, unlike many media commentators who want to discuss this issue, I know how hard it was to stop the boats last time, so the last thing we can do is risk them starting up again. As the former Indonesian president, SBY, once advised Australia, we need to take the sugar off the table. And right now, the government must be very careful here about any sense it's watering down its legacy on border protection here in Australia as well as overseas.